With Doral, we have a series of magnificent buildings. We call them bungalows. They each hold from 50 to 70 very luxurious rooms with magnificent views. We have incredible conference rooms, incredible restaurants. It's like such a natural. And we have many hundreds of acres, so that in terms of parking, in terms of all of the things that you need, the ballrooms are among the biggest in Florida and the best.
Donald Trump is now openly proposing to violate the Emoluments Clause by inviting foreign leaders to his private club for next year's G7 conference, literally putting money in his pocket and potentially saving his Doral Golf Club, which isn't doing so well. And that's not all. A day after those comments, the Washington Post reported that Trump wants his precious wall built before Election Day so badly that he has offered to pardon officials if they break the law in the process. And it's not just the president. His administration has become a kind of corruption soup. Take Attorney General William Barr. We learned this week that Barr booked his annual $30,000 holiday party at Donald Trump's D.C. hotel. So more personal cash for the Trumps, squeezed out of government officials at home and abroad. Perfection. Joining me now is Midwin Charles, defense attorney, Richard Painter, former chief White House ethics lawyer under President George W. Bush, and Paul Butler, MSNBC legal analyst and former federal prosecutor. I want everyone to weigh in, but I have to go to Richard on this first, because you are the ethics czar in a White House. Here's the justification that the Department of Justice is using for the Attorney General of the United States to hand $30,000 over to his boss, the President of the United States. Barr is paying for the event himself, they said, and chose the venue only after other hotels, including the Willard and the Mayflower, were booked. According to a Justice Department official, the official said the purpose of Barr's party wasn't to curry favor with the president. Richard, I've been to D.C. a few times. I love D.C. There are more than just 3 hotels in D.C. So essentially they're saying there were only these 3 choices, and he picked the very, very best one, and he's paying for it himself. Is that at all justifiable?
It's complete rubbish. There are dozens of hotels in Washington, D.C., not to mention private clubs and country clubs where he can have this party. There is a government ethics prohibition, a rule that prohibits any government employee from giving a gift to his superior worth more than $10. You cannot take your boss out to lunch unless the lunch costs less than $10. That's the law for all federal employees. This is a $30,000 party, and you can bet the profits the Trump organization is going to make off it are a lot more than $10. So this is corruption, and the idea of the top law enforcement official in the United States government, the Attorney General of the United States, wanting to break the law by handing a huge gift to his boss, the president, is outrageous. And this is on top of the solicitation of emoluments, profits and benefits from foreign governments, from the G7, open solicitation of illegal, unconstitutional payments from foreign governments, and, of course, the president telling people he'll pardon them if they commit crimes. This president needs to be impeached now. The House of Representatives needs to get going. He's the most corrupt president in American history.
And he claims he was joking about pardoning people. By the way, that story, I'm getting a nod from Paul, that literally he said, take the land. That was the line that stood out for me. He's telling his officials, just take it. Take people's land, and if you end up breaking the law in the process, Paul, I'll pardon you. Is that impeachable, illegal? Is the offering of pardons in advance a crime?
Absolutely. It's more obstruction of justice. I don't know if this is any more impeachable than the president's documented obstruction of justice with regard to the Russian investigation, or more impeachable than his racism. But yes, this is another example of abuse of office. The Emoluments Clause exists to prevent a foreign government from offering money to the President of the United States. It's simply not allowed. And Joy, there's 2 lawsuits that are actually working their way through the federal courts now about this very issue. And so when the Attorney General does things like spend $30,000 of his own money to host a party in the Trump hotel, one of the many concerns is that he's the director of this litigation about this very issue. And so in addition to all of the documented health code violations at Trump's resort in Florida, there's the horrible stench of corruption.
Yeah. I mean, Midwin, just there are so many things here to unpack. You have William Barr thinking it's a defense to say he personally is writing the check to his own boss, who rents a hotel that he leases from the federal government, from the General Accounting Office. So Trump even leases that hotel from himself as the head of the government, and then he's going to get paid through him and his family from the Attorney General. But let's go to the G7, which he wants to invite Putin to and make it the G8 again. Donald Trump wants to have 7 foreign governments, 7 European allies, pay him and his family to host an event where 7 foreign leaders, 7 presidents and leaders of nations would be in Florida during hurricane season, the height of hurricane season, where that's not safe, in a place that already got sued for bed bugs.
Well, even irrespective of those things, right? Forget the fact that it's hurricane season. Forget the fact that it's got bed bugs.
Or at least it was sued for allegedly having.
Sued for bed bugs. Yeah. Emoluments. I mean, we have this clause in the Constitution, and Mr. Painter said correctly, in order to prevent corruption. What we are seeing here right now, and I think it's important for everybody to realize this, is these are the kind of things that typically happen in dictatorships, right? When you have so much outright corruption, when you have the person who is responsible for managing all of our laws, the Attorney General, and as I said before on your show, he's the attorney specific, right? He is now an attorney specifically for Donald Trump. We do not have an Attorney General. I've said it before, I will say it again, and we saw in the way he handled the Mueller report, and he was only looking out for Donald Trump and not necessarily, has not been, as far as we've seen, looking out for all Americans with respect to how he has directed himself in that office. But irrespective of that, we cannot have as a standard the President of the United States making money off of the White House. It's obvious why this is bad. Corruption is bad because we do not have anyone with integrity and character running the country. The standard now is, with Barr doing this, does it now mean that employees, federal employees, in order to curry favor with Donald Trump, have to spend money at his hotel?
It seems
well,
so.
we know, in fact, we know that that's going on right now.
Exactly,
so one of the concerns
and
when there's no impeachment is that the message is that this is okay.
Exactly.
So to this point, $2 million, that's how much the federal government and Republican campaigns have spent at Trump properties since he became president.
Correct.
$2 million.
So you have, Richard Painter, Donald Trump essentially committing open emoluments clause violations. This would be foreign governments paying the president and his family directly to lease in his hotel for the G7, right? Not using Camp David. You have this wall thing he wants to build, currying directly to make sure that it goes to an ally. We have another story about that a particular senator of North Dakota wants his friendly firm to get the wall project, so now Donald Trump wants him to get that. At any one of these things would seem to be an impeachable offense. Trump is doing them all, Richard.
He is. And he is going to keep on doing this until he is impeached.
That's right.
And the House of Representatives needs to have the courage to impeach him. There's a formal impeachment inquiry, or so the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee says, but the Speaker of the House of Representatives needs to back impeachment, and we need to vote out articles of impeachment and have a trial in the Senate. And even if the Republicans in the Senate want to give him a pass, there will be a trial in the Senate in front of the American people, and the American people will see the evidence of corruption, of racism, of violations of the Constitution, attacks on the free press. He calls the newspapers and the media the enemy of the people. That's the way Hitler talked in Germany in the 1930s and 40s. We cannot accept this. He must be impeached. There must be a trial in the Senate. The American people will see the evidence, and he will be out of there.
You know, there was a time when the appearance of impropriety was a big deal. If something looked like it was going to be terrible, they didn't do it. Jimmy Carter, before becoming president, had a peanut farm. He sold it so that he would not have that appearance of impropriety, of making money while being in the office of the presidency. This president does not even care about that.
Last word to you on this, Paul Butler. Do you think it is likely we now have 134 out of 235 Democrats, that's more than half the caucus, supports an impeachment inquiry? Is this going to happen in your view?
You know, I sure hope so. But again, it's all up to the most powerful woman in the country, Speaker Pelosi. And she apparently thinks if the end game is to get Trump out of office, that it's more efficient to do that through the electoral process, through the impeachment process. I think you could do both. And I think that at minimum, even if impeachment doesn't result in Trump leaving office, being removed from office by the Senate, he deserves he deserves the stain of impeachment on his historical record.
Absolutely. And by the way, Lawrence
Exactly
Tribe,
right.
the brilliant Lawrence Tribe has made it very clear that the House could hold a trial, find Donald Trump has committed impeachable offenses, impeach him, and then not even send it to Mitch McConnell and tell Mitch McConnell, just look at that.
Right.
There it is on the wall. You can
There
look
it
at it
is.
on the wall. You ain't getting it. You don't even get to free him from this. Midwin Charles, Richard Painter, Paul Butler, thank you all very much. And coming up, who's in?